Welcome everyone to Wisdom and Laughter with ZAR. I'm very excited today. We're going to share a really beautiful practice with you that you can start to apply in your life, and it's a really one that allows us so much freedom. So no coincidence that it's called the practice of freedom. Before we get into it, as you are listening to today's episode, underneath in the comments box, please feel free to share any aha moments that you have, any quotes that ZAR says, or that anything that comes up for you, any new awarenesses as we're talking. And it would be fabulous as we can start to have them, collect them as a resource underneath the videos so others can really benefit from your wisdom as well. So good morning, Mary and Gary.
Good morning, Claire.
Good morning, Claire. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, and good morning, everyone else. And good evening and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
That's true.
So we are talking about the practice of freedom today. And it's such a beautiful practice, so simple, which so many of ZAR's practices are, but so effective and beautiful to work with. So Mary or Gary, would you like to say a few words about the practice of freedom before we dive into it today?
Look, I think it's actually been quite an interesting process for me. I know that ZAR will discuss it with you in a moment, but I hurt my back this week, actually, for a whole number of reasons. I think, doing so much around the farm and helping other friends, and so the experience was an incredible amount of pain, so much so that I couldn't really move off the couch, and at one level I could have experienced that as something. Because there's always so much to do. And so what I was able to do, basically in a nutshell, what I was able to do was to change the experience around and to realise that we have been working quite hard, and so it's actually allowed me a little bit of a rest. Not the most perfect way to have a rest, not being able to move much, but to have a rest, to contemplate, and to actually I've been able to also do a lot of other work that mental work that I haven't been able to do if I was in full motion. So I was able to turn the experience around into something that I could really use, rather than I could have looked at it as something so debilitating that I just would have been frustrated and angry with it. So ZAR will talk more about exactly what all that is in a moment, I'm sure.
It is, and it's interesting because it's that whole piece, Claire, where because we're in the physical, we're always going to be experiencing. We can't not. We interact, we do things, and a lot of the experiences we have, we really enjoy, and there are days that we have experiences that we bad backs, irritating family members or colleagues or, whatever it might be. There are times when, in fact, we don't feel that joy and freedom when we're experiencing something. And so the practice of freedom from ZAR is actually all about how do we move through the experiences that we don't want. And it's the key to it is that all the experiences we have, ZAR talks a lot, as people will possibly have heard, they talk a lot about energy reflecting energy. And so when we have an experience, it's an energetic reflection of how we're feeling at the time, who we're knowing ourselves to be. And when we can understand an experience from that space, rather than something that we feel is being done or happening to us, when we see that there's actually an interaction going on, we allow ourselves a lot more opportunity to move through the experience and to understand it and to use it to our advantage, as Gary was just saying then with the bad back that he's had. So there are 3 steps to the practice of freedom. The first step is you invite. So you invite an experience in. Now, in Gary's example with his back, it was an invitation that wasn't necessarily a conscious one, but it was an energetic invitation. It was the energy matching. He was feeling overwhelmed and there was so much going on and he actually needed to stop. That was the energy. So that's what the experience he invited in. Once we've invited, then the next step is we need to allow it. We allow it to be. We don't judge it. We don't try to resist it. We just recognize what's there. We've invited it, so we need to then allow it. But it doesn't mean we need to get stuck in it. And the third step means that we have the capacity to move through, and that third step is nurture. Because in the nurturing, we actually recognize our worthiness to either stay in the experience we're in, or if it isn't a match for us, to actually move, to understand who we are, how we've created, and to move out of it. And sometimes that can be an instant moving, and other times, Gary's back still just, it's much better, but it's still slightly there, but he's nurturing himself by giving him that space to move. So invite, allow, and nurture are the 3 steps of the practice of freedom. And so Zar's joined us. Welcome, Zar.
Welcome, Zar. Thank you, Mary. It just seems such a beautiful way of not getting so caught up in the experiences, because we came into the physical to have experiences and to live our lives, and so of course we are going to keep having experiences, but it's a way that we can really expand ourselves through the experience rather than getting more and more contracted and caught up in the drama and the pain of experiences that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So welcome, young ones. So where do you wish to begin this day, young one?
So it'd be lovely to begin, Zar, with you talking a little bit more, in addition to what we've already talked about this morning, about what the practice of freedom is, and also how we can apply it even more in our lives, and to move through experiences and expand more and more into that joyous feeling of freedom.
So, young ones, begin to understand, you see, your experiences determine you. And how your experiences determine you is what you allow and what you deny within the experience, you see. And so we understand that so many of you feel, well, they're just happening to me. I've got nothing to do with it. If you have nothing to do with it, you see, then you have no choice, then you have no possibility. If you can decide for yourself that there is a little bit of you in there somewhere within that experience, now you have choice, now you have option. And what that gives you is room to play, room to decide, room to determine. You see, the practice of freedom is just that. Because there was a time when so many of you created experiences to play within them. You were so curious, you see. When you create experiences to play within, it means that you are beginning to determine your future. You are beginning to decide what you want you to play within. And so within an experience, you can determine the you that is within it. And so what we have suggested to you is to invite something. So in order to create an expression of freedom, you see, you have to be this being that is free. And so begin to invite expressions, energy into your life that you can experience freedom in. Invite in an experience. Begin with something that you like. We think that's always more pleasing.
Definitely a good idea.
So in that moment, you're determining you. Invite in the experience. The next step is to allow it. And so what we mean in this space is for you to allow you to play within what you have invited in. It is like you are putting on different costumes, being different identities within that one experience. So you can play from different angles within it. And then to nurture. Because from those different angles and those different identities of you within the experience, some will feel good, some won't feel so good. So you're going to nurture yourself. You're going to help you to grow and to understand you within that experience. You are beginning to understand how you interact with energy. That's it in a nutshell. You're all constricted by time, we know.
Thank you, Zar. Beautiful nutshell. And so, as a practical application of using the practice of freedom, Sunny has asked a question that she'd like to have answered. And so her question is, how can we move forward in life, especially when we don't know how? And she says any insights will be helpful. And I think the practice of freedom is a perfect way of working through, moving forward in life, and working through experiences we have. So,
do you wish to begin, young Mary?
Well, it makes me think with that question, Claire, we're always moving forward. We're never static in life. But what typically happens is we move forward based on our current knowing of self, and if that doesn't change, then the moving forward feels like it doesn't change. It does feel like we're static. So the key always comes back to the awareness of who we are in the experiences that we're having and how we're responding, which is, as I was just saying, the experiences we have determine us. We determine ourselves based on how we respond. So being aware of the self in the experience and shifting with that using the practice of freedom, and as well as some of Zar's other processes, allows us to have be a different person in the experience, which then shifts our energy, which then shifts the next experience we start to reflect and attract.
Can we say about this young one that there is a wonderful beauty that already exists? Because what this young one understands is that there is a future. What she also understands is that there is this possibility for her to create it. She's saying she doesn't understand how, yet she already is, you see. In who she is already creating her future, because energy reflects energy. So how do you change your future, young ones, into something that you wish? You change this you that you are in. This physical, this mental expression that you are in. You need to change it. And you change it by nurturing the you that's in it. You see, young ones, by accepting that you are this extraordinary beauty and that you are finding your way through your life, that is the first thing to accept of you. And then to nurture that you, as if you were a little child, a little baby, and you want to teach them, you want to help them to grow, you want them to be strong and compassionate in this world. That is what you are also doing for you. You are wanting to nurture you, to grow this beautiful little being that you are into a strong, compassionate, extraordinary energy of this world. And so you keep giving to you, and that giving to you, you see, begins to change the energy of you, and that energy of you then begins to reflect different experiences, and those different experiences you can begin to interpret, and you begin to play within them, you see. But it always begins here with this you. So that is how you begin, young one. With you, because you will. Your beauty is extraordinary. You're just waiting for you to catch up to it. It's already there. Can you see?
And I love your explanation there, Zar, of the way to use the practice of freedom. It's not just a linear, step-by-step, three-step process. It all each of the different steps intertwine, and you may even start off with the nurture by nurturing yourself into the next phase of what you're inviting in. So that's beautiful. Thank you. So we're almost
nearly at time. So just one key thing though, Claire, with all of that is that awareness that the beauty that we are is always present. already. We may not be feeling it, we may not feel it's being reflected into our world, but it's there, and that's the piece of us, that's the aspect of us that we're nurturing. And the fact that we know that there's something more than we're currently experiencing, that we're more than we're currently experiencing, that's the clue. That's the clue to the way out. That's the part of us that we keep focusing on and nurturing.
Yes, and as we focus and nurture on that, the more that expands and grows, and I love that story that you've got in your book about the Cherokee, and I mean, that's a story for another time, but you know, how when we focus on something in that way and we expand that energy, then we're expanding our own beauty in ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to be talking about channeling, and I know it's a question that comes up a lot in your workshops that you do all around the world, and people ask, you know, what do you experience? Well, they ask Gary, and they ask you, because of course, Mary, you channel ZAR in your own way as well. So, and we'll be talking to Mary and Gary about that, and also talking to ZAR about how we all have this ability to channel. Is there anything you'd like to say about that, ZAR, before you head off?
Before we head off, yes, we have another meeting to go to.
I know you're in high demand.
So it is curious from our end to be channeling him. You say, oh goodness, yes, I'm not sure if you want us to talk about that. It is always fascinating to be in a human experience. But the energy of channeling, can we just say, tune in next time? We've always wanted to say that, to hear what it's all about. Then I say, think of those three things within your channeling. The experience of freedom, invite, allow, nurture. So farewell, young ones, farewell. We'll go off to our next meeting.
And of course, Claire, what we'll talk about with channeling is that channeling isn't always in the form with ZAR. You know, it's not always about bringing through another expression of energy. It's actually channeling our own wisdom, tapping into that larger wisdom and knowing of our soul. And that's a part of the channeling that we really focus on with people as well. So it'll be a great episode next fortnight.
Welcome back, Gary.
Hello, Claire.
Absolutely. I think that you know, the more I've played with channeling, and it's just opened up my connection to my own source energy and the wisdom that comes through that connection. So it's really beautiful, and that's where it starts. Yeah. So it's lovely. Yeah. So before we finish up, I'd love to share something with you all. It's a community that we call the Campfire, and there's a very special reason as to why it's called the Campfire. You can read more about that over at the Path of ZAR website. But it's a community that gathers every 2 weeks online, so people from all around the world get together, and we talk to ZAR every week, every time, and they give us so many beautiful practices to work with. In fact, the practice of freedom has only just been shared, was it 2 weeks ago, through the Campfire. So we're very lucky to be able to also share it through Wisdom and Laughter today. And it's just a beautiful community of loving, supportive, really enlightened, beautiful beings who all get together and share our light together. We all connect together, and in doing so, we just support each other so beautifully on our journey. So there's so many different rich aspects to being a part of the Campfire community. And so if it's something you feel drawn to, if you'd like to have direct access with Mary and Gary and ZAR every 2 weeks, you get daily quotes delivered into your inbox, which are just absolutely perfect every day that they come through. There's such beautiful wisdom and lovely messages in there. We'll pop a link in this video so you can go through and find out more. Is there anything that you wish to share, Mary and Gary, before we finish up today?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been lovely. I like these short, sharp sessions. They're great for the people like me with short concentration spans.
Yes.
There's so much more on the website if people want to keep exploring. So no, it's lovely, Claire. Thanks.
I love Gary's face when you whirl back in from
Just want to agree with everything you said then. The campfire is such a wonderful family, and it's always such a joy to be a part of that and to say hello to everybody, you know, from all over the place. And people even get up early to 2 o'clock in the morning in Europe to come and say good day. So it's a wonderful thing to experience with everyone. I just love it.
And then people listen back to the recordings all the time. So it's a fabulous resource.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. Thank you for that, mate.
Yeah. The recordings get sent after each campfire, and we have them as a resource to listen back to whenever we feel like just connecting back in with, I mean, we're always connected, but, you know, feeling that energy again, it's really very powerful space. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, for watching, and again, please leave any comments, ahas, below the video on YouTube so that other people can share in your own wisdom, and then it becomes this sense of community of this, which is the campfire as well, and we're all sharing our insights and learning from each other as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mary and Gary, and we'll see you next week when we're talking all about channeling. Actually, 2 weeks' time. Lots of love. Bye, everyone.
Bye. See you guys.